Yeah, great.
Whoa, this ain't going.
Be down the side. And but I appreciate everybody on the chat tonight for your comments. Well, hello, folks. Welcome to the Bee Connection. We got some special guests here with us tonight. If y'all don't know who this is Tim and Hannah. A great couple. Some people that, be great to be around all the time, I'll be honest with you. Just some all-around good people. So we wanted to bring them on the chat tonight and talk to them a little bit about their beekeeping. And if you guys don't know, they have their own channel. So, again, if you get a chance on Sunday night, and you're not at church on Sunday nights, it's a great place to be and listen to these guys. So anyway, Tom, how's the weather about your way? Because it's absolutely pouring down the rain here right now.
Yesterday, bud, it was
nasty.
It was a mess.
I can tell you house at Spanky's house.
Go ahead, Tim. But today it finally cleared on up. Just about after 2 o'clock, we started getting them bluebird skies coming on in, and it's been a heavy wind all day. But I'm just so glad that weather got on past us, and I know y'all out that way is dealing with it now. So y'all be safe as well.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Ruth just came in and she just dropped a hive off. She's actually going to be with us tonight and be in the chat. I really want to highlight spouses or just people that helps you in your bee yard. You ladies mean a lot to us. You're very special. I know I can't do it without my wife. She does so much for me, and just like delivering this hive today for me, while I can do some work here at the house, I couldn't live without her. So hopefully you people in the live stream here have somebody just like that that's in your life that can help you out and make life a little easier on you. I'll be honest with you, Ruth did a lot of the beekeeping for me last year. So
Hey, Miss Ruth.
Hey, Miss Ruth.
Yeah, we go shopping for our husbands.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See? That's a good lot right there. So is that why you was late? You was shopping? Here I was worried about this rain.
No, I went to get food too.
Oh, she got food too. Okay, there we go. We're all right. So, Tom, how's the stuff out your way? You and Melissa, how's things out your way?
Doing pretty well, actually. Yesterday was a little bit cooler. We had some rain, actually quite a bit. It was one of those slow, steady rains. So it was something that soaked in, not just ran off and tore the ground up. And then today was a pretty nice day, a little bit breezy and windy, but all in all, a good day. I was able to take off just a little bit today and focus on our bees a little. And Melissa and I had kind of worked a little bit on that, and I sent my son Isaac out with my one guy, and they did a little bit of work today. So I tell you what, our bees are really doing well. They're strong, and I've got some that are going to be on the verge of swarming if I don't make the appropriate decisions here. So that's what we were doing just before we started here, and we were getting after it together and making splits on some of our colonies that were doing really well. So we had done that a couple weeks ago too. I'd mentioned before that we had made some splits off of 15 colonies that were doing really well about 2 weeks ago. So we've got some of those in the works as well. Should have some mated queens back on some of those too now. So It's full steam ahead here in or just outside of St. Louis.
That's awesome. So, hey, Lee, did all that rain get out from down there where you was at? Did you get a lot of that rain?
Two.
I'm trying to get camera straight here. Sorry about that. Yeah, most of the rain's finally out of here. When we went to leave work Tuesday, they sent out a message, told everybody just don't even show up for work Wednesday at all. So I got there today. We started back and didn't do nothing all day until 3 o'clock because of the wind. And finally, 3 o'clock, they told all the crane operators to just go home.
Right.
So another day off, or a couple of hours off today. But as far as clouds, it's nice and sunshine here, but we was getting 30, 35 mile an hour winds most of the day.
Wow, that's bad.
Then, I mean, temperature wise, we about mid 70s right now.
Right.
Doing pretty good.
It's awesome.
Ain't it
Yeah,
fine
we-
for some of the southern spring weather, Lee, though?
Yeah. Well, I wanted a little rain so that we can get some more water in the ground for these privet trees, privet bushes we got going. But I was afraid with all the heavy rains and the bad winds that it was going to blow the flowers off of them and make it to where maybe we didn't get another year of privet flow. But it knocked a few flowers off. But I think the majority of them, they still there. They starting to stand back up today after all the water dripped off. So I'm hoping we're going to get some coming in good to the hives.
Are those privet flowers real sensitive to rainfall and or wind?
They can be because they're very, very tiny flowers, and it don't take much to knock them off.
Okay.
And I was really surprised, as heavy as it rained here, and we was getting right at 60 mile an hour winds, that it didn't just knock everything to the ground.
That sounds just like our black locust. And I think Ricky and you all have some black locust too. Very, very sensitive. And they will produce, those trees will produce a lot of nectar, almost to the point of pooling. But if you have any kind of harsh weather, temperature related, wind, or even a heavy hard rain, forget it. It'll knock those blooms down. They're just really tender.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
There were thunderstorms coming up the mountain. I can see the lightning.
It's in Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was coming in squalls here, so that's something we see more with snow showers than these big
And
rain
it
showers.
was hailing also.
Oh, did you see something?
Yeah, I was just trying to pull my weather up for tomorrow, and it was still on North Carolina. It's showing y'all got about 90% chance of rain coming tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
wow.
had rain for 3 days now.
Mhm.
Off and on 3 days. It's spring weather, but we're a little bit better advanced because all of our maples still have not popped out yet. So this will be really good because I think everything will bloom this
Yeah,
weekend.
and down Spanky's way, the wisteria trees, they're all bloom. They're completely bloom.
That's good.
I love to see those bloom.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Well, we're going to bug Tim and Hannah tonight and maybe get their history of how they kind of got into beekeeping and, maybe even tell us a little story about how they met, and maybe how they got married or, something like that. But just tell us a little bit more about you guys. And
There we go.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that.
hey, I dig around now. I probing some stuff, so.
Yeah.
That was the best day of my life right there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you got you good in there, Tim, man.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. We both did. I will say that. So no, we actually met on the fire department, working the volunteer fire department together. And then we just kind of hit it off, right from the beginning. But ended up dating and finally got married. And when we got out of the fire department is when we really started getting into beekeeping, because somebody still needed an adrenaline rush. So
Very much. But 20 years of running licensed sirens up and down the road and doing everything else between here and there on that end and stuff, it was basically a daily event
Mhm.
running up and down the road in them fire trucks. And like I said, whenever we got out of it and hung our coats up, as they say, it just got kind of boring, if you will.
He couldn't adjust.
No, I was having issues on that end.
Mm-mm.
Then there was a swarm of bees that moved in at our church, and somebody made the fatal mistake of telling me about it. And
It was on instantly. It was on.
oh yeah, I was hooked. Even though the first time I walked around there to where they were, because they got into like a pop-up camper that a fella had kind of put back behind one of the buildings there, if you will. And buddy, I walked around there, I seen all them bees are flying and this and that, and I went to getting closer and checking them out. And one little old girl, she come up and she just clamped down on the inside of my nose.
Ooh.
And she lit me up on the inside of my nose.
Inside his nostril. I was thinking for sure, well, there goes that. We'll be moving on. No, he
No.
was good.
They kept saying, we got to get them out of there and this and that. And I said, don't y'all worry. I said, we'll get them. I had no idea how to get bees out of anything.
No.
And so we started hitting old YouTube and watching different videos. And lo and behold, old Tommy's brother, the dirt rooster,
Yep.
he was one of the ones we first started watching there and trying to figure out how he did them cutouts and this and that. And our very first cutout was a complete failure. We watched them just swarm off into a yellow pine.
Yeah, I wish we'd have had a video of that. That was before we had ever thought about filming, but I'm telling the entire world of YouTube would still be laughing at us.
Oh,
on
yeah.
that cutout.
And look, it was inside of an old shooting house. All right. And this thing ain't, 3 foot by 3 foot in that old shooting house. Well, had the plyboard down and they had that little 20 some odd inch gap right there. And it was, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet long.
It's probably 3 foot high.
And okay, in my mind, I'm going through what the dirt rooster done. You take your knife and you cut this right here. And, I'm trying to do what he was saying he does. And
We never thought about, try to find a queen so the bees will stay where you want them to stay.
I made my first cut, and all we had at the time was them old cheap Amazon suit and pants.
Yeah.
And they get through it, don't get me wrong, but I made that cut, and y'all, I thought I had that big old piece of comb. And think about it now, both of us tucked up in this little old hunting house.
Yeah.
And plunk, I dropped it. And the first words out of my mouth to her was, "Don't move."
Don't freak out. He's the one freaking out.
Bees went everywhere.
They did. We backed out for a minute, and it was hot. Like it
mercy.
was what, the end of August or
Yes,
September.
It was
We
blistering
were
hot.
literally almost into heat exhaustion mode by this point. So we go out to let them calm down a little bit, and we were burning up. So we had jeans on, so we took those hot suit pants off, thinking, that'll help a lot. I ain't no more thought about it. I got baseball size holes in both knees of my old work jeans. Oh yeah. Them bees ate me alive by the time
They tore it all up.
Gosh, they ate me up. It was worse than fire ants in your britches.
Well, then all that mess went to happening, and we noticed our bees were leaving. They wasn't flying; they was walking out on us.
Remember, we had a bunch in the box, and we went to sit down and drink some water.
Yep.
And we debated with each other, should we put the top on the box? Finally decided, no, we're just gonna stop for a minute. They'll be fine. Yeah, we ain't no more sat down, and I see them just spiraling. I was like, baby, them bees are leaving. No, they'll be right back. They're not leaving.
Oh, God.
them things was gone. They was 40 foot up a tree out there
So,
in 5 minutes flat.
so we left things as they were that evening. We just threw our hands up, left our bags we had honey in and all this good stuff. We caught ourselves tying it up. Well, we come back that following morning, and the blasted coons done got in there and had them a heyday up in that honey.
Everywhere.
Now,
It was the biggest disaster of our beekeeping career.
oh yeah, we'd run around with heat exhaustion, and we just finally said, "Look, I'm done with this. Let's
Yeah.
get what we can get, put this man's hunting house back together, and we gone."
Yeah.
Then
But we ruined it for them. They wasn't never another swarm of bees went back to that shit. I was like, oh my gosh. So thank God it's gotten better from there.
for the ones I guess that may be in question of how in the world did we get gunline bees? I know we've been asked that a couple times, but there's some irony to it as well. But when we first started tinkering around, well, we'll try this YouTube and see what happens. And all that come about whenever we accidentally stumbled up on what we call the poor man's incubator. And fumbling around and thinking, well, we got to come up with a catchy name, I guess, to do this stuff with. So I enjoyed watching that old movie Life with old Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence. Well, if you've ever seen the movie, whenever they take them into the prison, if you will, the old guard tells them, this is the gun line. If you go past the gun line, you know what happens. Well, down in our yard here, the land kind of tapers a little bit. And whenever we first moved in, we had cut down several big old pine trees. And we drug them down about midways to where it tapers. So eventually it'll start, catching the land instead of washing it. Well, I got to looking at that and I was like, that's the gun line. If we go past that, then that's where the bees are.
Right.
That's what he would tell me. You go past that gun line, they're going to pop you.
So come up on that.
Stuck.
Yep. That's how we got the old gunline bees there. Then the irony of it was, as many of y'all know, about a year after we started tinkering around here on YouTube is whenever Hannah took that sting and went into anaphylactic shock. And we talked about that on the way home from the hospital and was like, we talk about the gun line just kidding around, and now we really
have to watch the gun line.
Yep. Yeah, we just simple folk down here in South Alabama, just outside of Mobile. Just old country folks. We love the Lord. And like I say, we enjoy good fellowship with everybody. And once again, appreciate everybody in the beekeeping community that supports us and supports all these lives.
That's right. That's right. And Tim and Hannah, how many hives you guys got right now?
5? I think we had 5 colonies.
Yes. Wait a minute. Yeah, 5 now. We come out of winter with the 2.
Yeah.
And we've done the splits. And 2 of the splits have been taken over from swarms. So
golly, Ricky, you have got all kind of pictures.
there we go. Yeah.
Hannah, you didn't know that while y'all was sleeping, I snuck in your house the other day and got me a bunch of pictures out of the house.
I think he's been stalking you guys or something. I mean,
pull up our wedding photos.
No wonder Jasper had that look on his face the other day. But
That's
yeah, that's us.
Y'all do have a pretty setup.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Now, since we on your channel, we'll chat about them horizontal hives a little bit.
Well,
the 2 we have there, one of our brothers in church, Brother Joe Grandquist, the Lord took him home a year ago, right after Christmas.
The
But
day after Christmas.
y'all, you talk about a craftsman whenever it comes to
gosh.
building furniture, tables, armoire. I mean, the man just, he could do inlays and just make something, take nothing and turn it into a beautiful piece of furniture. And about a year after we had gotten into the bees, I had been rummaging around trying to figure out, well, let's try one of these horizontal hives and see what comes of it. Everybody kind of jaws about them things. And long story short on that end, I was talking to Brother Joe about it. And oftentimes we would just go up there and fellowship with him. And me and him would go out in the shop and just talk. And on one of the talks, he said, hey, you got some plans on that horizontal thing you talking about building? Well, I said, we can look them up now, Brother Joe. So I found some plans and sent them to him, and he said, get with me one weekend and we'll build some. Like, all right. Well, about 2 weeks passed by, and he called us up, and he said, hey, get up here to the house. I need you. That was his exact words. We was like, well, yes, sir. All right. So we moseyed on up there, and Hannah and I both walked into his shop, and I'm walking around looking and, you know, just kind of just meandering around the shop for a minute, and he's just looking at me. Well, I turned back around and look at him, and I put my hands on something just to lean up. And he says, well, what you think about them right there? I said, what are you talking about? And I looked down. I had no idea I had my hand on one of the 2 horizontal hives he had built. And he made us, there's 3 different sections in them, which you can remove the walls to either make it, you know, a full 30 frame, or you can do 3 10 frame colonies in them. And I was flabbergasted.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Brother Joe. He said, well, you like that one? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, look over there. What about that one? I was like, there ain't no way, man. Come on. And sure enough, he built us the second one. And both of them are built out of cedar and cypress. And they're pretty much twin boxes. The only thing that we done is we added the tough rib metal on the top. He had put some, I guess, kind of like flashing metal, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
on there originally. But other than that, those boxes there are very much special to us,
Yeah.
and we try to keep them full of bees as much as we can.
So how long you had the horizontals for, Tim?
This be our 3rd year with them, I think. This is year 5.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, about our 3rd year with them. The first 2, I don't know if y'all was able to find any of those pictures or not, but we had some to where y'all the front of them things, and what we typically do with them is just have 3 different colonies
Mm-hmm.
in there, and they did great. Last year, as we talked on our little chat, y'all know it was just a terrible year, but every other year we fool with them. There'd be times to where you literally could not see the front of that cypress on there. There'd be bees from one end to the other, top, bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the cool thing about it is after everybody got home that evening and you had that sheet of honeybees on the front, everybody's just kind of hanging out. They was doing their little, I know y'all seen this before, but kind of like their little 2-step back and forth movement. And never had any trouble with them trying to get into another colony, anything like that. It seemed as everybody got along well, but we absolutely enjoy them. They fun to tinker with.
They are. They're a whole lot easier to work out of too. You're not bending over for 3 hours going through a hive in those.
That's what Ruth tells me. She's like, here, you go do these other hives, and I want to do the horizontal hives, you know. So
Smart woman.
Yep.
Yeah,
You got it figured out, Miss Ruth.
Yeah,
They're
that's how
definitely
we.
easier to work.
Yeah, we enjoy them.
We got ours set up to where it's just slats, if you will, just little pieces of 1x4. So you can just take the individual 1x4 off, and you'll expose at the most maybe 2 frames.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps to keep. We've noticed as far as a whole bunch of flight and agitation.
Mhm.
You're not opening so
Now-
much up at one time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only part about it, I guess, if there's a real issue on that, is which we don't use it too much. Now we do keep a smoker around, but oftentimes, thank goodness, we got some pretty fairly gentle stock. But to get them little slats on, we do have to hit them with some smoke to kind of clear that real quick and get that slat back down. But other than that, I'd say that's the biggest frustration we have, even if you want to call that frustration.
Because you only have to hit them with smoke if you're not patient enough to just wiggle them down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty nice working bees that are pretty calm like that.
Ours are, which I'm grateful for. Because if we had hateful bees, I probably wouldn't be able to do it anymore.
If we ever get any kind of hot hives, I'll destroy them in a heartbeat. I'd hate to, but I'm gonna keep my woman around. You bees are secondary.
Yeah, I
That's
feel
right.
special.
That's like with Ruth, you know, she doesn't mind to get in the bees without a suit on before she got the anaphylactic shock like Hannah did, but
I still think that.
she still don't care, but she doesn't want to be stuck with that EpiPen, so you know, it makes it hard making the decision, do you keep the bees or do you not? And good thing is she's got a good suit, so I just make sure she suits up every time she goes in.
That's it. Like that wasn't a hard decision for me. I mean, on the way home from the hospital that day, Tim was like, after he talked to the ER doc and it was told how bad it really was, he was telling me on the way home, well, I'll post everything and we'll sell it. I was like, no, you won't. Try again. No,
Wrong answer.
seriously. I was like, no, we'll figure something out. And then that's when all the whole community of no-life beekeepers come together and blessed us in an unimaginable way with those suits.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the group, the No Beekeepers Live, and just the people in the chats, man, it's a great group to be a part of. It absolutely is.
It is on a whole lot of levels.
Yep. And I know I've taken care of y'all a couple of times, and you know, it just shows you God's blessings when it comes down to it.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely. We sure wasn't expecting nothing that evening, and once again, everybody that contributed that evening, we're forever grateful on that. But yeah, I mean, one person just said something, and before we knew it, I was sitting here in awe. Hannah was out on the porch, and I went out and I showed her the phone. I said, "Look at this."
Yeah, all I could do was cry. But I'm telling you, every single time I put that suit on so I can go out and work my bees, I thank God for this community of beekeepers that he used to be able to keep me doing it. Because, I mean, if you watch our channel for very long, it's not hard to tell how much I love the honeybees. So,
She had me turn around one morning. There was a bee. We got a little video of it, but there was one little honeybee holding on for dear life at 60 miles an hour down the highway. All right. And I was thinking that she couldn't fly off any time now, but she rode it out about 1.5 miles, 2 miles before Hannah was like, "Let's just turn around, take her home."
Oh.
I'm thinking, let's turn around and take her home.
yeah,
Yeah,
we got out and got the bee, and he held her, and we took her home.
we turned around, gentlemen.
It's like, I'm not leaving her at the store. She will never find her way home.
Walked her right back down to where we had a little watering bowl right there. The picture y'all seen, the colonies there, we got a little watering bowl off to the side. And yeah, took her tail and dropped her off down in there. Then back down the road we went.
Mr. Mike caught a swan today.
Didn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's what he said.
DC's got a question there if anybody wants to speak on that a little bit.
I can't read it up there.
It says, have any of you that have developed an allergic reaction checked on the medical procedure process? We've nosed around at it a little bit, DC, to try to see if it's something we could afford, I guess. But down or to the doctors we've talked to, without insurance, it's quite expensive to go through. And from what we've read up, you may be able to do it within a few months, or it may take several years worth of treatment to hopefully get over the allergy and everything. But yeah,
So, Tim,
go ahead.
is that a little bit like when you have regular allergies? Do they just kind of keep giving you some venom until you get strong enough to it? How does that work?
Yeah, from what we've read up on it, it's just like very, very small doses. Then they'll gradually kind of increase it as you go along. Then eventually, in most cases, it does reverse the anaphylaxis end of it to where you can, if you was just to take a bee sting out there in the yard, then it'll be like the rest of us. You pretty well be okay. Swell up a little bit. That's the end of it, instead of a trip in the ambulance.
Yeah. I think DC's got the right answer right there. I think that'll fix everything right there.
Yes.
Hey,
go ahead.
I just want to tell Brian, Flower Street Farms, it's good to have y'all tonight, and everybody that's in the chat. Hello Bee Farms and Russ and Phil. All you guys that's on here tonight. We do appreciate you coming on to talk with us a little bit and see Tim and Hannah and talk to them just a little bit tonight. So appreciate that, guys.
Yeah. Oh, Phil at 33 Mile Bees, brother. Your post into Facebook yesterday, I got a good kick out of that. We appreciate the brotherly love on the what do you call them things, GIFs or GFIF or whatever you call them things. It's in the many of y'all text yesterday, called, and all that during this bad weather, and lo and behold, whenever we was watching the tornado warning coming out of Pascagoula, because the way that warning is, it was kind of shooting up our way. So we had been ready in case we had to leave. Well, it come to the point we got to get to the church. It's getting that bad, get somewhere safe. So we moseyed on down to the church. We loaded up Jasper and Stella, and down to the church we go. And
That was an adventure in itself.
yes, it was. But about 15 minutes, I don't know, about 15, 20 minutes before I was fixing to say, all right, let's get on to the house. I think it's over with. Well, I know a bunch of y'all watch that old Ryan Hall, y'all, meteorologist fella.
Yep.
And we was watching him, and lo and behold, him and that other gentleman that does it with him come on and said, hey, there's a pop-up tornado right here at Chunchula Road and our main state road. Well, that's where we was at church, right there.
Wow.
And we didn't see a tornado. Now, don't get me wrong, the wind's got to whipping and kicking and going every direction. Then
But it was raining so hard, you wouldn't have seen nothing if it was
Lord,
right
no.
in front of you, kind of thing.
because we got 5 inches of rain in that 3 or 4 hour period. And it wasn't just a minute or two later, we seen deputy sheriffs headed down the highway with blue lights on. And apparently there was a bunch of trees down,
It
right
took
down
the
the highway.
roofs off a couple houses too.
Yeah. But thankfully, when we got home, the Lord put a hedge of protection around the home place, and I had went down there several hours before the storm got here, and we've already got like tent stakes, but you screw them down into the ground. We keep them in the yard with the bees all year because of hurricane season. So I had went down there and tied the horizontal hives down to the old tent stakes and got everybody else buttoned down just in case it got too crazy. But thankfully, when we got home, there wasn't any damage, but you could tell it come a heavy, heavy rain. But we looking good down here. We was talking to Lee when we were headed to work this morning, working down in the south end of the county. And as we was leaving the house, I just couldn't take my eyes off the side of the road. I imagine many of y'all do this, looking for things blooming.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And was telling Lee, brother, that rain really opened up that privet, or you can see the privet starting to really turn on. So it I think we're gonna be all right, maybe on a good flow with that rain.
That's what we're praying.
Oh yeah, I mean it opened everything up. It's just what they needed. Y'all know how it is. You see that healthy run of good rain for them plants and all, and it just seems like they took advantage of it and budded a floral is popping out. We've seen some tulip poplar opening up. The blackberries, they still getting it around here. White clover's crazy. Crimson clover's getting it. Nettle's still around. It's just much better season this year versus than what we had last year. That's for sure.
How long does that privet bloom last for you all down there in the south?
We can probably get the way that it runs. You'll have like a batch of it that'll bloom a little early. Then you'll have a batch kind of in between and start falling off at the end, if you will. But we probably get a good 2.5, 3 weeks out of it between the early ones down to the late bloomers, if you will.
Do you think the ones that are blooming later are a different cultivar of that plant, or you think possibly it just has to do with maybe the like a microclimate or the weather in one area as opposed to the other that's causing the bloom cycle to be a little bit delayed maybe?
I'm gonna say it's just a little bit of delay on the bloom cycle.
Yeah, that
because
makes
most
sense.
of it down here, it's invasive for us, what they consider. But man, it's literally everywhere in the woods around here, along the side of the roads, all from one end of the county to the other kind of thing. It's everywhere, but you can tell where, all right, like up at Hannah's grandma's, it started blooming a little bit earlier, and that's about 10 minutes from us. Well, we start getting down here closer to the house, you can see the bulbs coming out of the plant, but the flower hasn't opened up yet.
Yeah.
So we kind of got that little bit of different stages.
Yeah. So we have privet here in Missouri. I don't know if it would be the exact same privet plant, and I do know that bees work it. I don't know. Maybe I'm assuming that it could be the same, the same cultivar, the same species of plant. I don't really know because I really don't know a ton about that plant. But it seems to be fairly hardy. And I want to say that our bloom cycle on that seems to last maybe a couple weeks, give or take. But obviously we'd be a little bit later in the season than you all would because we don't have any poplar tulip bloom and we barely have any foliage on those trees. They're still kind of pushing out a little bit. And then those blooms come a little later. So I think that we get our tulip poplar blooms here. I want to say the 1st of June because it happens no, maybe it's late May, maybe 1st of June, because we get our black locust bloom, which is the tail end of April into the 1st of May, and the tulip poplar blooms
long as we
a
don't
little
get
bit after
freeze.
that. Yeah. I know we probably have some similar plants, from where you all are at to where we're at, but like I think you all have tie down there. Is that right?
Oh yeah, we got tie all over the place. Different types of holly.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, we know they pull good off that tulip poplar.
We know they pull really good off the trivet.
Yes.
Like they depend on that.
And our biggest flow is whenever we call them popcorn trees, but the tallow. When that tallow starts getting it now, it's time.
Now, is tie actually a bush, or is that a tree, you think?
Ours are a tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got a real smooth bark on it, kind of rustic looking, the best way to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other name for tie-tie?
I forget what it is.
It's not tallow.
No, tallows are popcorn trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have either one of those, tallow or tie. And the only way I even know about those plants is because of hearing folks like you all talking about it. Lee's talked about it, and I've heard other people on the chats talking about it. So I really don't know much about it. I'm sure that's more of a southern plant.
It's a pretty
down
tree.
here. Yeah.
Makes for good shade. They do get on up there pretty good.
Does the honey that comes from both of those trees, does that taste pretty good, or is that not great?
I mean, we like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the lighter, sweeter honey, I guess. It's not like a bold flavored honey.
Yeah.
It's really, really sweet.
That's more of their, we'll just say location here. It seems to be more of their first run of good nectar flow. It's not anything heavy by any means that we've seen, but it does help them to start recharging, if you will, to where they can get enough in there in that colony. You'll start seeing the brood cycle pick up, then gradually start to see a little bit of backfilling here and there. Then everything else kind of starts falling into place between your blackberries, and we'll get into our privet run. And man, don't get me wrong, in our yard I have cut down anything that looks like privet because it's so invasive
everywhere.
You can drop a leaf, literally you can drop a stick that big, give it a week, and it's rooted in the ground and going again. But there's plenty around for them to forage on. But that's, as Lee talks quite often, it's a really pretty honey.
It is.
You can just about see through it. It's got a good heavy yellow tint to it, but man, it's pretty, and it's got a good, if you're one of those that like the sweeter honeys.
Mm-hmm.
It is much sweeter than any fall honey we get.
That sounds just like our black locust. It's very plentiful. That tree produces a lot of nectar in a hurry. But again, you better not have any wind, better not have any cold snaps or too much rain, because it'll wash it out or kill the bloom really quickly. And it's very, very light. I would say almost looks like the color of water with maybe a slight yellowish tinge to it.
So what at Nabi, one of the guys that went with us, who's in our bee club, he entered his black locust honey into our state fair honey show and won first place. He's like, well, I'm going to Nabi with you guys. I'm going to enter it in the honey show. And he didn't even place, I don't think.
No.
And they told him they give you comment cards with all of your entries, so you can improve or know why you didn't do this or that. And it said flavorless because they're like, it's just sweet. It has no flavor. And then so they didn't even consider it. because they called his honey flavorless.
It was funny to us.
He was so mad.
It was funny to us because he had a couple of first place prize or ribbons on it. We told him, he said, when we entered our stuff, we said, we're coming for you, right? He said,
Just
we're
joking.
going to, yeah, just joking and being playful. I said, we're going to take your first place ribbon. And he's like, well, you all bring it. And so what we had entered was not black locust. It was a little bit darker.
Well, we didn't place in the light category though. We
No.
placed in the amber and then
Mhm.
the infused.
Right. So
But it was just funny. He
It
was
was.
so after winning first place in your state and then not
Uh-huh.
even getting considered, and that he was so mad. It was pretty funny. Everybody gave him trouble.
we were teasing him because it's so light. We were teasing him, telling him it was like Cairo syrup, that he's not allowed to use Cairo syrup and when labeled as honey, just to tease him. But yeah, anyway, it was fun. We had a good time with it. He was, just
No, that
everybody
was
liked him.
fun. Who was it? Somebody from Pennsylvania sent us a little thing of black locust honey, and I had to fight my sister over that jar. She was like, "No, I'm taking this one home." I'm going, "No, you crazy." That was some of the best honey I've ever had.
But it was
It's
I
good.
almost,
loved it.
it looked like water almost. It was
Literally.
clear.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
But it was so good. I can't believe it didn't even place in there.
Yeah,
No,
somebody
It's
tasted
pretty
it.
amazing.
So, what is everybody's favorite flavors? Now, I'm gonna say I think mine's either locust or poplar, and that would probably surprise most people.
Yeah.
I love the way poplar tastes. What about you, Rick?
Same.
Lisa, what's yours?
I don't know that I have one. Like I can tell you which one I don't like is blueberry. So we got some of Bob Binney's blueberry honey. They were selling it in the gift shop in Chattanooga when we were in Chattanooga over the summer last year.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I want to try the blueberry. And I did not like the initial taste was fine. It was the aftertaste. I did not like it at
Mhm.
all whatsoever. So yeah, I don't care for blueberry. Orange Blossom's not my favorite either.
I don't know. I liked orange blossom, but mine's probably black locust. I like tulip poplar. And I would probably say like a white Dutch clover. I like that. That's fairly light too. I
What
tend
about
to kind
you,
of
Ann? What do you
gravitate toward
like?
the light. So
I don't know. Like, I like a lot of them. I guess if I had to pick, at least my top favorites would be DC's blackberry, our goldenrod, and that black locust. Is probably some of my favorites.
Here at
What about you?
home, I have to say the blackberry is going to be my favorite here at home, just for the reason that now this just may be my taste buds, but it's like whenever you pull on that blackberry honey, you get that sweetness of that honey, then all of a sudden you get that blackberry taste in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Then it kind of changes a little bit to like a heavier. I hope I'm kind of explaining that right. Folks
Mhm.
understand, but it's just like it goes through a couple of cycles of blackberry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've never had a real good goldenrod flow. Usually what we do get is just enough for the bees to go through winter, and we don't touch any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have
A couple of years we pulled some.
we had the beetle issue out of the one colony,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a super on top, and thank goodness the beetles didn't get up there to destroy the honey. But the colony done abscond, so we pulled that little bit off there, and I think we got about 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of honey out of that. I have to say that'd probably be my second there, that goldenrod, just the way that it's got a little more pronounced taste. I
Yeah,
reckon.
it's a much stronger honey flavor, but it's that dark color too. Not
What-
Like
sunflower.
honey's for old ladies.
I must be an old lady because I do like light honey. I'll take that.
Or a frat boy.
I don't know if
Which
I'm a
way are
frat
you
boy.
going?
Before Sarah probably sneaks off here, I want to say I want to highlight someone every night on my live chat, and I like to, if Sarah's on here, she probably already got off, but highlight her and highlight her channel. It's really starting to grow. It's a great channel. If you get a chance to go visit her channel, she's a great lady. Got a lot of good content, and she's got one video. It's called "Born to Be More Alive," and I really enjoyed that video, and I wanted to bring it up tonight. If you're not subscribed, it's a good channel to go out and see. So.
Absolutely. I love watching Sarah's videos.
Yeah.
You and her definitely pretty good friends there.
Yeah, she's my friend.
Well, when me and Lee went in to see who all I blocked from the other night, I had actually blocked Sarah also. And she's always been a good friend of mine. I know, I'm horrible. And I actually, James McNally and somebody else I blocked by accident. I don't know how it happened, but so got those fixed thanks to Lee. He's always a great person to help you out if you need somebody. But he was awesome. And, I just wanted to also mention Bruce. I've never had sunflower honey. That's something I'd really like to try sometime. And Spanky, what kind of honey do you like, brother?
I mean, I don't know. I just try whatever they pull in at the house. You know,
What kind does your mama like?
I don't know. I mean, they've been eating it all up, so I guess any of it.
Right.
Do y'all have like a lighter honey or a darker honey up that way, Spanky? Or
We pulled all three of them the other year, light, amber, and dark.
Yeah. I know we get a pretty big variety of different flower content up here, and depending on where you're at, it can be totally different. And it's just amazing. At the same time of year, it could just be totally different because of so many flowers blooming in different areas.
Honey.
And it was like we had gotten into a couple of our colonies late in the season last year, just rummaging around, and what little bit they did get, we stuck our finger in there, give it old test run, see what it tastes like. But it seemed like we had more of a wildflower run last year since the tallow was killed off early. The privet was pretty well killed off early because of that last cold snap that come through here. And it seems like they just kind of transitioned over more to we're going to get on to the wildflower or whatever we can get, basically, because like I said, it was just not a good year. But I'd say that was a wildflower honey, but it was pretty good in itself, but it was like a medium color, what they had on it.
I was just thinking about how long it took me to clean off all that honey. That yellow one.
So when I was in Mexico, Ruth got some honey from somebody just coming down the street. And I almost swear that was cactus honey. That was probably the best honey I have ever had, was in Mexico. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is this? But it was just unbelievable. So that's probably the weirdest honey I have ever had, but the flavor was so good.
Now, when we done the official honey tasting and Lower Wheels, we plan on doing it again in September, but we had many very, very good entries. But all the honeys were good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
They was all wonderful. But
I was so glad I wasn't a judge.
but some of them you got, and they'd have a good honey flavor to them. Then some of them that you tried, once again, going back to the blackberry a little bit, it was like it would go through different cycles of a different flavor, but in that same honey. It's just kind of hard to explain, I guess. But old Philip RTX, one of them Texicans out there, he sent us, I think it was the Capel honey for the tasting. If I'm wrong, correct, whichever one it was, but that honey, man, it went through like flavor after flavor in your mouth. It just very different than anything what we have in our neck of the woods, that's for sure.
But it was a very unique honey. Like I'd never tasted something that had such a strong minty flavor to it. But it was crazy good. Like I said, I was just glad I didn't have to be a judge for that. I just ate the honey.
We ain't gonna lie to y'all. Every time we got one of them puppies in the mail, we'd open them jokers up right then and get a taste of that honey and go, oh boy, this is fine here.
Oh
And you
yeah.
know, a day or two later, another package would come in and we taste that and we go, oh, now this is just good too. So this is gonna be tough. So that's why we had to. It wasn't hard to do by no means, but get Mr. Donnie to be the judge, so we wouldn't. How would you want to put that? It wouldn't be
Unbiased.
Unbiased.
He was completely unbiased because we didn't let him try any of them until that night. But buddy, we dug into that honey. DC
So
is still hidden.
So DC's asked, does the flavor of honey change once it crystallizes? So what's everybody's opinion on that? Anybody in the chat? Anybody on what's your?
I think it does, because like when I make my creamed honey, I make it out of our dark honey and it tastes completely different. Like it has a completely different flavor than our runny honey, and it's the exact same honey. One's just been crystallized and, you know.
Mhm. I never thought about that.
So I think it does. And then when you melt it back down, I think it goes, I don't know if it's just like the texture kind of like changes the flavor somehow, you know, because even when, depending on the moisture content, the honey is going to taste different. Like if you have the same honey and it's at 18%, and then you take that same honey and dry it down to 15%, it's going to taste different because it's going to be more, it's, well, not stronger, but more concentrated at the 15% than it is going to be at the 18%. So I would think that the crystallization would kind of be the same, you know, the same thing, or a similar, you know, reason why it would taste different.
I think you hit it right. It's kind of like it hits your tongue different. It's got a different texture to it. And it just has a bit different flavor. Yeah.
You're working because all them honey crystals that's come together and bound up with one another.
Right.
That it just kind of hold itself together a little better, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like crystallized honey, not creamed honey. I like crystallized honey.
Really?
I used to hate it, but I love it now. Yeah.
I don't really care for
Sure
crystallized honey. I mean, it's easier to like cook with, I guess, because it's easier to measure because it's more of a solid, you know, and I guess it's good for like teas and coffees because it, you know, melts down, but I don't like that rough texture in my mouth.
I used to not, but I really like it because it's like the honey doesn't cover my tongue up like it's stuck. You know what I'm saying? I can kind of wish it off and get that flavor a little bit better with the crystallized.
Yeah. I had a kind of a change of mind. Well, it was part of the official honey tasting. Brian from Flower Street sent us a batch of what he had. Man, let me tell you what, you got to give that man props on his packaging.
Oh yeah,
that man knows how to package.
Yeah,
his
he
honey.
does. It was almost too pretty to rip open.
It was. But he sent us a couple of different varieties of what they was making up there.
Yeah.
And we tried each one, and I had to say the blueberry was my favorite out of them. But we're going back to texture. At first, I was kind of hesitant. I was like, you know, it's just got that little more of a granule taste or run in my mouth. But after things kind of melted on down, I was like,
the flavors were incredible.
Yeah, I could handle this, especially putting it on some toast or something like that. Yeah, we can have a good meal with this.
So Brian said something about the creaming the honey smooths out the sweet bite of honey. So we've actually had people tell us, like, when we're doing honey tastings when we're at markets, that they don't like honey, but then they taste the creamed honey, like, oh yeah, this is good. This is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like that, it's not as like strong, or like Ricky was saying, doesn't like coat your whole mouth as overwhelming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we've definitely had people like creamed honey that say they don't like honey at all, but they'll eat the creamed honey.
Yeah.
It's different.
Well, y'all come on back. I got plenty more for you.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, Brian from Flower Street, he's got some very good varieties. But he gave us some kind of white. I don't know what it was. It's kind of white. It tastes like marshmallows to me. And my daughter, she wouldn't put it down. She ate every bit of it. She had it gone in 2 days.
I remember, Ricky, you gave me
that honey butter or whatever last
butter.
year. That was really good.
You said you had made that, I think, from some of that fall honey.
Yeah.
I forget now what you said. The
goldenrod. We got it from goldenrod. Goldenrod stinks so bad, but it's got a great flavor to it.
Yeah, that stuff was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul's right. Russ Copeland's got some great honey too. He sent me some of his ginger and blueberry, and man, that's really good stuff.
Ginger, huh?
Yeah, ginger was good.
I never would have thought of that.
No, sure wouldn't. But
That's
I mean,
very cool.
there ain't no telling what them bees get out there and get on. But we have no idea,
Yeah.
the nectars that they're bringing in.
I hate saying cream.
Oh, cream.
What he
I'm
added
sorry.
that flavor.
Oh, I was thinking, boy, ginger, huh? I'm with you now.
Keep up, buddy.
I know. Lee got me confused before the show with all that stuff he's telling me.
Yeah.
That man trying to explain computers on the telephone. Lee, I'm out, bud. I'm sorry.
He finally just told him, call Hannah.
Yeah, talk to her about it.
We still didn't get it together.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, Tim, because I couldn't do it without Lee in the background and without my wife. She knows more about computers than I do. This would not happen without those folks.
Look, I don't think, I hope they do, but I'm pretty sure our little B group doesn't realize just how many live streams would completely fall through if it wasn't for Lee.
Oh,
That's right.
He is the backbone of a lot of them.
I think,
that's our kitchen.
yeah, that's some of our privet there. We got year before last or so. Yeah, you can hold that stuff up to a light and just about see through it, but you can tell that pretty color it's got to it. And like I said, that's some fine tasting honey itself.
How much did you get that year, Tim? Yeah.
5.5 gallons
Okay.
off of that, and we was running.
But we didn't pull anywhere near what we could have. Like
No.
that was just one deep box we pulled, or two.
2 deep boxes. we
Yeah.
pulled. Because that year, which I'm really hoping we get into, which y'all, everybody that's beekeeping knows that this can be an aggravation or pain, but when we get into that privet run and it's leading up to that tallow, it don't take long before you go to getting honey bound. And them girls, they'll start drawing out like crazy. I mean, you cannot keep up. You can drop frames in, and a couple of days later, they got them drawn out and already starting to fill them in. And we hadn't taken as far as pulling honey as serious as we should, because we just go out there, pull enough for our church folks, a few friends. Mr. Donnie, he's our biggest fan when it comes to honey around here. But year before last, we started kind of trying to take it a little bit more serious, and we was hoping last year, but Lord willing, this year we'll be able to. We're going to take full advantage of what we get versus just pulling a few boxes and having a little bit sitting around.
Yeah.
Well, I think most beekeepers at the beginning, they don't want their bees to starve. And so we really try hard to leave enough honey on them to get them through winter or first few years, because we just don't want to lose them, right? But you figure out that spring flow can really be your honey, I think. I think that's when if you want to take some honey, take it on that spring flow, because the bees are fine at that point. And then if they need a little extra in the fall, give them a little sugar water and get them through the winter. There's nothing wrong with that.
We finally figured that out.
If we pull honey like we should have, I'm gonna say easily we could have pulled honey probably. Hang on, listen to you right here. We probably could have pulled honey a good 3 times, and they'd still been okay. Going and starting in the dirt and all that, they'd have had plenty of time to fill up on reserves and get ready for dirt. But what we got? There's Miss Hannah there. Day before yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, right before that weather got in here. But we back over there at my buddy's house where the bucket truck incident happened.
Let's not relive that again.
And the day before that, we was over there, and that's where we did that's our last video on, what was it, almost, or something
The
made.
swarm cut out.
Yeah, the swarm. Then we went back. He called me the next day after we did the cutout out of his house. And he said, well, there's a swarm in the tree. I'm headed over to the house. Can y'all come help me? So we moseyed over there, and showing up, there was a good little old swarm. And buddy, you talk about a queen that was healthy in that bunch right there. We did a little bit of videoing.
We were trying to beat that rain coming in yesterday, though. Day before.
Yeah. You can tell the bees were starting to get that change. I guess the barometric pressure starting to work on them a little bit. But that was a pretty gentle little bunch as well. The cutout we did, y'all, I don't think we've ever pulled any bees that were ever so gentle. I mean, they didn't even I don't even remember getting bumped. Even when some of the foragers was coming back, they
were very polite.
Yeah, considering us putting them in a vacuum. There we go.
Oh, that's the last one.
Yeah. And we'll make that a short and put out for y'all. That just kind of, we own Ricky, so he gets the exclusive.
You come stay free.
But yeah, that queen, before we had cut that limb down, had gotten up on the ladder and was trying to look for her, and lo and behold, she showed herself. And I went to get that queen clip and get her butt, and y'all know how she does. She dipped right in the center of everybody in the wad. And I was like, I'm not fighting all this. Let's just cut the limb and put them on the box and let them go on in. And it didn't take them but just a minute or two, and they was right on in there with their little behinds in the air and happy as they could be.
It looks like they took to that box really easily.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was like, just because the weather's coming in, this is going to be a disaster too.
Oh, yeah.
But no, we didn't spend 15 whole minutes
No, we
setting
weren't
the
out there
box up and everything on that one.
Like I said, as soon as she set them right there on them top lids, them frames, buddy, they went straight down into that drone comb we had in there, and with just in a matter of seconds, they were shooting that nasing off in the air and calling it home.
I was thinking, oh, thank God this is not like the first one removed. We come a long way.
So, Tim, tell me what you and Hannah was doing with this frame right here.
Oh boy.
That's a controversial topic.
Yes, that is a controversial topic. For the people that are hooked on science, you may want to turn off for a few minutes.
Yeah.
That is, you hear us talking about the 4-man incubator, and how all that came about was year before last, we were overrun with queen cells. We had split everything here at the house. We didn't have no boxes left. Went up there to my buddy Lance's house, done the exact same thing, and we really wasn't wanting to neutralize those queen cells. So I said, look, if we just need to keep them warm is all we need to do, then we'll go to the man down the road and buy a couple empty nuke boxes and we'll do some more splits. Well, we're trying to figure out how in the world can we keep these queen cells warm.
Because we didn't have a real incubator.
No, Lord, no. So another story, the ones of y'all heard about the bearded dragon, that was her home. Well, I lost the bearded dragon outside by accident. So the aquarium was still in here in the living room after Hannah been fussing and fussing about get that thing out of my house.
6 months, an empty aquarium's been sitting in our living room, a 60-gallon aquarium. Took him over it, so he found a use for it.
Sure did. So we was taking them queen cells, as y'all can see, we were sticking them on the frame anywhere that they would hold, and we took that reptile basking light and just stuck it over the top of there, something to keep them warm. Well, man, about a day or two later, getting up going to work, got to
Lo
looking.
and behold,
Here comes some queens. They was chewing themselves out. So we waited till that one queen, we waited till she chewed herself out, caged her, put her up. The next morning, here we go again. And just for anybody that may have an interest on it, it seemed to us, now every time one of them queen cells hatch, usually I'm up about 4 every morning. And it wasn't too terribly long after I had gotten up about 4. So between 4 and 6 a.m., those queens were hatching every day. Bam, bam. And we get them, we cage them. We kept them alive for a couple of days, feeding them, so on and so forth. And
make a split and introduce them.
yep. And we ended up hatching 31 queens.
My goodness.
It was 31 queens out of there by the time we got done.
Wow.
And
Oh yeah, that's what we were saying for a minute.
and one other little thing on topic people ask as well. The temperature had to be 90 something degrees, 98 degrees or whatever it is. But ladies and gentlemen, the consistent temperature in that aquarium stayed at 86 degrees. And like I said, 31 queens. We had, I think, 4 that did not hatch. And if you go back to some of our videos, they're way down there at the end because they're some of our first videos. Anybody wants to look at them. But after you go through a couple of them, if you notice down in the bottom of the aquarium, you'll see those 3 or 4 cells that did not hatch. Because what I was doing is laying cells out that hatched. Then, down a little bit further, I put the ones that wouldn't hatch. And I had me a little piece of paper taped on the side of that aquarium and marking days. Okay, is it day 15, day 16? Well, she should have hatched by now. And if they didn't hatch within what we had thought, well, we just simply took them down and put them in the bottom of the aquarium. And like I said, 31 out of those, 35 didn't or did hatch. Just the 4 Didn't that season. I think I got a couple over there in my little insect, whatever you want to call it, insect collection.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a pretty fun little run. We had no idea it was going to work.
No,
It was just one of them.
I think he honestly started it just to get me off his back about getting that empty aquarium.
It worked.
It was a happy accident.
Oh, it worked.
Yeah.
It wasn't long after that. My brother-in-law, her baby brother, which he's a big old man, and whenever he come over that one day, she said, "Look, Zach's here, so you can get him to help you tote that old aquarium outside."
No, I had already talked to my brother, and that was the reason he stopped by that day, to get that thing out of my house.
Well, thank goodness old brother-in-law went along with me. I said, "Look, Zach," I said, "we can get that thing another day." And God love it, he went with me. "Well, you right, brother-in-law. We'll get it another time whenever you're ready." And this
I
and
could
that.
kill both of them.
Oh yeah,
I
she
was
is
so
fired up.
mad that day.
But
It's out of my house now, though.
right now,
Yeah.
but until we get overwhelmed with queen cells again, I'm absolutely do it the exact same way.
No, we're
Right,
going
right
to
back
get the smaller ones that we have in storage. That 60-gallon thing is not coming back in my house.
What was it, Rick?
No, I was just saying, she's just putting the whip down on you. I agree. It's just a matter of time before he ends up back in the house because I know how that goes.
We'll get it back in here, people.
We'll get a small one in here.
She did agree to a small one. We were going down the road the other week and kind of jawing back and forth on the old poor man's incubator again, and
Very much.
she's like, "Well, you can get that 10-gallon and put back inside, and if
We
you want to do it,
compromised.
yeah, so be it." So we get the 55-gallon back in here.
No, well. Yeah, I started running bed on that one.
We may have to. Melissa, do you let Tom do anything like that?
No.
No,
No.
please take
We actually use a reptile incubator is what we use for our cells and stuff. It's about the size of a, I don't know, a mini like desktop fridge, if you will.
Mhm.
It works really well. I think we paid just over $100 for it on Amazon a few years ago, something like that.
I think it was 150.
Yeah. That seems to work really well for us. Holds just what we need it to. Right now, our garage barely fits my car. There's so much bee stuff in our garage, and we already have a shipping container full of bee stuff. It's now the shipping container's full, so now the garage.
I'm laughing at Lee's comment here.
He's hilarious.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Melissa. There was a few years, well, it's been a lot of years, that I bring my extractor in the house and it's in the middle of the living room.
Oh,
and
no.
Can't crank that thing. It's sitting there. And I'll usually leave it there for about a month and it's sticky everywhere. And my wife's yelling at me and like, "Well, we got one more group of honey coming off. Just hold on, just hold on. You need to get that thing out of the house, So she puts up with me for about a month, but looks like a honey house is definitely in the works.
So
Miriam's the only thing that's ever upset me. Like, I'll be doing the extractor in the living room with him because we ain't got nowhere else to set it up.
Right.
yeah, see, you have to. Tom is something else. Like, he's the only person, like all of his work associates that own landscaping companies and stuff like that. Like, you are the only person I know that has a work truck that you would never know it was a work truck. Like, he's the keep everything nice and neat guy, right? So, no, we didn't. And actually, the syrup tank sugar syrup, the tank that he built that because he was tired of the mess in the kitchen with making the sugar syrup in the kitchen. So that's why he built the tank, so we wouldn't have to do that in the kitchen anymore. So yeah, he's very much, we try to do as little in the house as possible.
I'm really OCD, and things really bother me, and they get to me if they're not a certain way. So I have to do things in a way that it keeps my sanity. You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
I don't, it's kind of like, whenever I get home in the evening, I need things to be peaceful. They need to be in order and in place, because if not, it's just, I don't know. It just makes me a little crazy. That's all.
As he says that, our house is an absolute wreck right now.
Right
So
now,
just-
it kind of is. It's a little bit of,
it's a hot mess around this place right now.
yeah. There's a lot going on for sure.
I'm that way with work, like with our customers and what they want whenever we're doing our construction in. I have my OCD tendencies, but like here at home,
He don't care.
he's the one that cares, absolutely, because I'm not gonna lie, I'll have a spur of the moment idea. Okay, bam, I'm fixing to do this in my world. And I don't tell her what I'm doing because I know what the answer is going to be. So real quick, I'll start gathering things together and doing this and that, and she'll go to question me. What are you doing? Well, it's silence. I'll give her some
He
kind
will
of.
dodge and duck and weave. Normally he'll wait like till I go get a shower or something. And he knows he's got 20 or 30 minutes to get elbow deep in it. And then I can't miss that much.
I think he's working.
I'm the more OCD of the two of us. I mean, bad. Like I can't take clutter and stuff in the house. I can't deal. I get overwhelmed, and it bothers me really bad. But he's the opposite. He don't even notice it. Like, he has no clue.
Sounds like he's working off the premise of, ask for forgiveness, not for permission, right?
Yeah.
He lives by that.
Hey, it works too. You just get in there and do it.
I tell him all the time, it's just a really good thing you're so cute. And you can actually
Now, how long have you all been married for?
October will be 9 years we've been married.
Yeah. So it's been a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, we complement each other. We definitely do. He keeps me toned down, and I try to keep him in line.
She does pretty good, I reckon.
Yeah, Lisa, notice what? There's nothing in here.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I'll get to it. That's my thing. Don't worry about it. I'll get to it.
I'll get to it. That's his other favorite line. I'll get to it.
Now, Morris Homesteads here has mentioned about swarm cells, and can they use the swarm cells for splits? And what do you guys think about that method? I'm going to tell you from what I've been told that swarm cells are the best queens you can get. The weight of that queen is heavier than a regular queen, so all around the best queen you can get is a swarm cell queen, because that point of that colony is at its peak, and those queens have been fed. They're perfect queens. So when I see something like that, it's 2 frames and then a third frame with a cell if I can on it. If you want to just break them up by frames, but two frames from another colony, I'll slide that other cell in with just a single frame, and I'll make as many splits with it as I can make. So.
I agree. But if they're going to do that intentionally, they need to make sure they stay on top of that hive so it doesn't swarm on them.
You're right.
Before they get those cells out. And then when they do make splits, they're going to need to make a split with the mother queen and take her away as one of the splits.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Otherwise, they'll still she's still she already has in her head that, or the bees already have in their head that she needs to swarm. So if that's the way you're going to do that, you're going to have to stay on top of it to make sure they don't swarm before you harvest those cells. And then you're going to need to leave a couple of those cells behind and move that queen some of the bees as one of your splits.
Yeah, I will also add to that and say, as long as they're building swarm cells in the time of year when other colonies would be doing the same thing, not if they're way later or way earlier than your swarm season, because you don't want to breed for swarmy bees. But if it's the right time of year for your area, and that's the time that you're starting to notice there are swarms happening, colonies are starting to build up, and it seems appropriate, I don't think you're getting swarmy bees at that point in time. I think that's just what bees do, right? They build up to reproduce. So I think that those actually work out good. And that's what we did today. We went into colonies and I split the boxes and I'd look under them. If I seen swarm cells being built, we went in and we tore it down.
You tried to find the queen.
Try to find the queen, and then we'll move her into a nuke box and give her some resources, and then move it away and let her continue to do it. But I will also add to that and say, our main focus and goal is not honey production. If your goal is honey production, probably don't want to listen to what I'm telling you, because our goal is making splits, increasing our apiary size with more colonies, as well as selling nucleus colonies.
Well, you just don't want to.
I don't concern myself as much with building a honey crop. If you're building a honey crop, you probably wouldn't do that. You might take a split out of them just to hold them back enough before your main flow starts to happen. I think Bob Benny does a video and says he leaves 4 to 5 frames of brood in there. How long is that before his main flow? You recall?
I don't remember.
He has a video. Everybody could go back and reference.
2 to 3 weeks, but I'm not positive.
That might be a couple weeks before then, because you want them to peak, I think, about a week into your main honey flow, because otherwise you don't want them to peak a week before the honey flow. At that point in time, they'll want to swarm. So, there's a couple of methods. I guess you can use that Demarest method if you want to keep them in the box and work that. I don't think there's any solid guarantees with that, but I think it helps. I've never used that myself, so I can't really speak toward it a lot.
So as far as waiting until they're capped or pre-capped for splits, I'm sure you can do it either way. I would wait until they're capped, just because all of those bees in that hive are still, if they're not capped, that means they're still being fed and still being tended to. And you want that huge population to be tending to those cells. So yeah. Like I said, I'm sure you can do it either way, but you're probably going to get a better result if you wait until they're capped.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of bees in there, and they're going to do a really good job. You want the best and well-fed queen from the earliest point, from that larva hatches. From that point in time moving forward, you want her to have the best chance at the best development. Everything develops appropriately, and if they don't get fed that royal jelly from the early start, I think that sometimes that you may not notice it. You might still get a queen, you might still get a mated queen, she might still lay well, but maybe she could still be slightly, maybe she wouldn't be able to last as long. Maybe you would get a little bit longer out of that queen, and then there's a lot of variables I think that play into that. But Brian's that we make and sell nukes for swarm prevention and still get a pretty good honey crop. And I think knowing when your main flows hit and what they're going to look like that year is key to knowing how you would set up that colony. Meaning if you have plenty of time, that you can still take a split out of that colony and still leave yourself plenty of frames of brood moving forward. That way, again, they're not going to peak before the honey flow hits. They're going to peak, probably a week into your honey flow. That way you can still get your honey crop. You can make a split on the colonies. And I think for the most part, at least I'll say in our area, we can accomplish both of those goals. We can still get a really good honey crop off of a colony and still take a split out of them, just hold them back just a little bit.
Well, if you don't take that split and you leave it big, right, and they swarm out on you, you lost it.
Oh, definitely.
You just lost your honey flow for that season. So it's better to do the prevention like Brian's saying here and set that colony to the side. And if you don't want to give it to somebody, there's always somebody who wants bees. But
sure,
you're doing yourself better. Yeah, you're doing yourself more justice by weaken that colony just a little bit early spring. So when the flow hits, it's perfect. That time is just right, like you say, Tom.
Oh, absolutely. And we've talked about this before where, people have different opinions about feeding. They have different opinions about feeding pollen and, like a sucrose to honeybees. So, well, they don't need it. Well, I'm trying to manipulate a situation. So we all know here that bees are going to do what bees do. There's certain things that are hardwired into them that you're just not going to change their mind. But what you can do is you can manipulate a situation, meaning I might manipulate my situation where I start to feed them a little bit earlier, a 1-to-1 sugar syrup, and put maybe a pollen patty on them to cause them to rear brood a little bit earlier and to stay on top of it, even through our rainy days and cold snaps. So they'll build up. I know by doing this, I'm going to cause them to peak early, but I'm okay with that because I can maybe now pull a couple splits out of that colony and still be able to gain a honey crop off of them. So I think it really depends on what people's goals are whenever, you ask a question or you get an answer. I see all the time on social media where somebody will ask a question and you'll get like 6 different answers and the person will come back and say, well, I don't really know which one is correct. And it said, well, most of the time that you need some clarification on that. Like I say, hey, Missouri is a great state. We have great pollens. You don't need to feed pollen. I agree with that statement. But I will say, again, like what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get those bees to brood a little bit earlier and continue to brood even through our cold snaps because we have some seesaw temperatures in the spring and through our if we have a 2 or 3 day rain snap, if they have some pollen patties in there, they're still feeding, they're still stimulated. That queen's not going to slow down. So I can now manipulate a situation. So it really has to do with everybody's goal. What do you want to do? Do you care that you get a full honey crop? Do you want to do, maybe sell some bees? Brian said, back there where he said you can still pull a split out. Hold a split back because if you only want 5 colonies and you already have 5 colonies, you don't know if one of those queens could fail, later in the season, maybe after that spring buildup. She starts to kind of peter out a little bit. If you have built another nuke, where you can steal resources off of that nuke and give it back to some of your 5 colonies to keep them boosted, but you also might be able to take that nuke, after maybe you pull your honey supers or maybe you do some treatments and realize that the queen's not quite what you were hoping she would. Now you can plug that nuke right back into your colony and have a better or more robust colony going into winter time. So there's several different methods I think people can use for that. That's one that we would use ourselves, and that's kind of how we would manage what it is that we're doing. So
Now, for like us, we just, and don't get us wrong, we sat down and had the conversations of, and I imagine most everybody else has too, but what do you think about, this is just us talking to each other, but what do you think about taking that extra step one day and let's try to make this into a business and be able to maintain a profit off of this? But right now, I would say we are more, I like to call it mom and pop beekeeping.
Yeah. We're definitely backyard beekeepers right now.
Because we don't have a set goal on honey. We're not really firm set on, are we going to sell bees or anything like that. I reckon our main goal is to get the yard built up, be able to sustain that number and fight these blasted hive beetles to where we can keep our numbers. And I'm pretty sure we're good on that, I believe now.
I think our biggest problem though is we're horrible salesmen, first of all. Like I'll be straight up, hands down. I couldn't sell something to save my life, but we're just not money driven individuals. And like we struggled big time. Like our second or third year, we had a really, really good honey crop. I think it was our second year. And we were like, okay, we set a price. We're going to sell this honey for this much. we give every bit of it away. Like
Oh, yeah.
literally, people brought us back their empty jars and asked for a refill, and I didn't have the heart to charge them for it.
Oh gosh.
You brought me the jar back, you know, okay. We give away every ounce of honey we had that year. Like we're terrible.
That's not a good business plan. That's not gonna work out.
Yeah, I know. That's what I don't know. I think that would be my biggest issue with it.
Now with our daily work, our business,
That's a whole nother
Yeah.
thing.
I
Like,
can
we
sit
have no
down.
trouble there.
I can figure you a price up, material, labor, call you on the phone. Okay, hey, this is what it's going to be.
Hmm.
You know, yes or no,
Mhm.
and whichever way it goes, okay, so be it.
Mhm.
But we definitely lacking on the
We just
selling of the
yeah, we
honey.
hadn't developed that mentality when it comes to the honeybees yet.
We're just like, here, yeah,
Yeah, we'll
enjoy
share
it.
with you. But
I
It's
think a
kind of
lot
like,
of
it's like it's just a mindset for you, I guess, right? Where you're just kind of like, well, we don't need this for income, so we're just gonna, offer some help to somebody or give it away. Just like, good-hearted people, right?
That's
You know?
That's what it goes to.
we
And,
try.
I don't.
I have not developed that mentality for the honeybee yet.
I
And
see
the
what
other
you, I
thing
see
is,
what you guys are doing there. You're basically taking your product and you're getting everybody hooked, right? You're
Yeah,
reeling
that's
them in, and then they're going to be like, "Hey, we want some more honey." And be like, "Oh, it's this much." Been like,
Okay.
"Well, if you want it, here it is."
There are getting to be some people, like, I don't know. I get our church family. We actually did sell some honey year before last. We actually got money for it, sold the honey. But I think our church family is like the ones that I just don't have the heart to charge them. But the first couple of years, that was 98% of our customer base was our
Yeah.
church.
Our free
But
customer base.
yeah, there has been, I'm gonna say a couple dozen people now that have actually paid us for the honey. Now we're not making a killing by any
Sure.
means, but
But that's
we're
just them
getting
as
there.
individuals saying, no, you know how it goes. No, brother, let me pay you something for it because I know
Yeah.
you put time into it, and I know jars cost money, and
Yeah,
you know all this, and
but we're slowly making that transition.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Like I said, we're not major money driven people, I guess.
no,
And
not at all.
which I don't consider that a bad thing, just for us. I mean, I'm not, like he said, we've never claimed to be a how-to channel by any means. This
Mhm.
is just us and our life, but I don't know, we've never really had that desire, I guess. But
I think it depends. Like it all goes back to your goals, right? Like, what are your goals? If you guys are just going to be backyard beekeepers, then it's really not a big deal, because you don't need that money for income or whatnot. Where like what we charge, we take that and we go buy more equipment with it. And we've got 100 and some odd hives, so we go buy new extractors or the uncapping line that he purchased or this, that, or the other. So we take that money and basically just reinvest it. We're not making any money because somebody keeps sending it.
Well,
Or we give it to Ricky for horizontal hives for our collection in the backyard.
hey, I gave away honey at our church the other day when I took some bottles and one of the gentlemen had messaged me and said, "Hey, when you come to church on Sunday?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." He said, "Could you bring me a couple bottles of this and that?" So I grabbed a couple of light, couple dark, and I grabbed a couple of our bourbon barrel aged. And then, so I had a couple extra. And when I took it in, I seen our pastor standing out front. So I grabbed an extra bottle and I walked past him. I handed him a bottle and started to walk away, just as a gift and walk away. And he stopped and talked to us for a second. He says, "You don't know how much I actually enjoy eating honey." And I said, "Well, enjoy this." And then there was another pastor too that had asked me to bring some in, and I didn't. He asked me how much, and I said, "You know what?" I said, "Just keep it. Don't worry about it." So, you try to give back a little bit too, right? Even though I do charge 98% of the time, sometimes you just kind of feel led that maybe you shouldn't take money for something, right? So, and then it is what it is. You might just be like, hey, don't worry about it. Just keep it, enjoy it. If you like it, call me back and I'll sell you another bottle later on. So
That's I guess to get down to the nuts and bolts of all of it, we try to keep things as simple as we can in life. And for the ones that, been with us and watch us on Sundays and all that, we do love the Lord. Christ is number one in our life, and in our day-to-day living, we live to the point of the Lord's going to provide for us.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's us continuing to do construction work, or if he sees fit, then we look at it as he'll let us know there's a transition coming up, a new season coming in, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm going to allow you to take things. And
we kind of touched on that on our New Year's Eve live show, because it was on Sunday this year, and everybody was like, well, what's y'all's resolution and what's your goals? And I was like, you know what, our pastor preached on Proverbs 6, I think it's 16:9, but it said, a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directs his paths. I was like, that's my resolution. I'm done making plans. I'm done trying to make things go my way. It's going to go Jesus's way, no matter what I do. So we just pray about it and let the Lord lead us where he wants us to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Like, I'm not fretting over, yes, we would love to quit working construction and play with the bees full time, but that may not be God's will for us. And I feel like if it is, then he'll change that mentality for us, and he'll
Mm-hmm.
start opening doors for this to turn into a business for us to make a living on.
Yeah.
So I just kind of rest in that and, hope for what I want and pray that that lines up with God's will. But I don't know. So I just kind of, I'm just rolling with it now.
Sure. You mentioned something about not being money driven. I think that's a place that most people, I think that's a really good place. It really is, because I've worked for a lot of people who have a lot of money, and I mean silly money. And you look at these people, and this is not everybody, right? I'm just saying, I'm kind of throwing a blanket on something here. They just don't seem happy,
No.
So I mean, that just goes to show you that now nobody wants to be poor, right? So I'm not talking like that. I'm just saying you don't have to be extremely wealthy, I think, in order to be happy. I think that you need to find pleasure and contentment in what you do have, but that doesn't mean you don't strive to do better. And when I say do better, that doesn't mean that you need to go out and make another $100,000 next year, because if that's not your goal or your priority or what you want to do, then, I think, everybody needs to find happiness. So if it for you all is just earning a simple living with a nice construction company where you provide a great product for people, they enjoy what you've done for them, you enjoy what you've been able to build, and then, play with bees on the side and maybe make just enough money to cover costs, so be it. I mean, our steps are led, and I think that, I think there's definitely something to be said for somebody who can just be content with what they have. Again, that doesn't mean you stop trying, but just being content is one thing I think that we can all get happiness from, It's funny because sometimes my son says to me, whenever you're younger or you're a young man, you talk about cars and maybe a nice car, a fast car, something flashy, right? So my boys are 17 and they'll talk about this special car, whatever it might be. And they'll be like, hey, Dad, you should buy this or you should buy that. And I'm like, they're like, well, wouldn't you want one? And I'm like, I'm like, I said, what you want at 17, you don't want at 27. What you want at 27, you don't want at 37, and so on and so forth. Right. And I said, would it be nice to have a really cool car? I'm like, sure. But I'm like, it's not what I strive for. And that's not what I would think would make me happy, So I think that, again, being content with what you have, but again, you don't stop trying, you don't stop pushing, you keep going, you keep, moving along. And, I think that, people should look for happiness, not look for millions. And I think that if you found happiness, I think the rest of it would just be white noise in the background.
Well, 'cause oftentimes this once again my opinion on it, but it don't take long before something can become that money driven portion on it. Then you absolutely forget and lose why you enjoy doing what you do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That was one of my biggest concerns when we first started talking about it. I was like, I love the bees so much. Like it's ridiculous sometimes how much I love my honeybees, but just I don't want them to turn into something we have to do kind of thing and lose that love for them, I guess. Because don't get me wrong, I like what we do in construction, but there are parts of it that I passionately dislike. Now that I do day after day after day.
I understand exactly what you're saying when you say that.
Yeah, like overall, I love what we do. I love that we are not on somebody else's time clock, and we don't have a boss breathing down our neck to a certain extent.
Sure.
Just because you work for yourself doesn't mean you don't answer to anybody. You still make commitments. You still have to get these jobs done and do them in a timely manner. But it's all on you, kind of thing. And that's a lot of pressure that I think people probably don't understand if they've never worked for themselves. Like we've had a very hard time trying to make people understand that we don't just take off when we want at the last minute and money's always there and that kind of thing. But like I love that end of what we do. We get to work together all the time. There's a lot, a ton of benefits to what we do, but
yeah,
I don't want the bees to turn into something that's money driven, I guess, is what I'm afraid of.
Well, then lose that passion for it, because then it just turns into a job. I got to get out there and do this nest, get the honey pulled or do my splits, all that.
I only feel that way in the middle of summer when it's 500 degrees outside and you have to wear that bee jacket. Like,
Ain't that the trick?
Lisa, Tim loves sheetrock.
Oh, yeah, I'm all about some sheetrock.
Yeah.
We had that conversation this morning going to do some sheetrock work.
Yeah.
But
fun times.
Just, I guess, moral of it, keep that drive, y'all. Whether you're mom and pop like we talk about, or if you got several hundred colonies, try to keep that drive about it to where, you out there, whether you're out there with your woman or you're out there by yourself or you got a good friend helping you. Cut up, carry on, have a good time, sit down, eat a little bit of dinner, then get right back after it again type thing. But don't let it turn into the grind, if you will.
Yeah. Basically you're saying don't forget why you started doing what you do, right?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Go back to that first colony you got. That very first colony.
When you were like a 5-year-old sitting in front of the entrance just to watch the honeybees all the time.
That's the picture you could have sent to leave.
This is the same thing that I've told previous employees of mine before. They just seem so unhappy about it. And, and at times I've had some really good employees in the past, but sometimes you get somebody that just seems completely unhappy coming in every morning. And I ask them, I'm like, what's wrong? well, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, regardless of what you choose to do in life, and I'm like, it doesn't matter what it is. If you want to be the CEO of Nike, go 100 miles an hour at that position to be the CEO of Nike. If you are perfectly content going in and you would just enjoy, I don't know, something as simple as picking up somebody's trash. It's something simple, and for whatever reason you get joy out of it. Go at that 100 miles an hour and just do that with the best attitude you can possibly find. Because at the end of the day, we need everybody from a CEO down to somebody that collects trash to any other job that may be in between. And just do it with drive, do it with passion, and do it with a good attitude, right? It may maybe, like you all said, maybe your footsteps are led. Maybe it's someday, maybe y'all won't be in construction anymore. Maybe you will be a sideline or commercial beekeepers. Who knows what's in store? But I think, again, like you said, Tim, keep that drive. Don't forget why you started doing something, and don't lose focus with what your goals are so that you can accomplish that. Don't get so hung up in just the money and forget the real reason why you may have started doing something, and you lose your focus, and now you're unhappy about the whole situation.
And I think that's another thing with our business that kind of works for us, because we both, he's a little bit worse about it than me, but we get tired of doing the same thing over and over. And like you said, people after doing it for so long come in every day and they've got that attitude of, I'm just tired of it. And like when we get contracted to paint every room in an entire house, by day 14 of painting walls, I'm rolling my eyes like, oh, I'm done painting. But we finished that job, and the next one is going to be, building a deck or screening in a porch or laying flooring. So it's constantly, even though it's the same basic things over and over, we kind of rotate those things to take a break from the painting and then the flooring and then construction and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that kind of benefits us.
But I am that individual that if you stuck me in an office 365, you may as well put me in the ground because I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I need a different atmosphere pretty quick. So, like she said, going back to what she's saying, absolutely, we can go to Mrs. Jones' house over here down the road and work for a couple of days, and I'm fine. And oftentimes, there's many of our customers that, y'all, it's been fun. We love y'all. We wish we could, stay a little bit longer, but it's time to move on. Then, before you know it, 6 months later, they calling us back. Hey, we need this done, because most of our work comes from repeat customers, and the Lord has made it where we work all year long except for up to Christmas time. We take off the
Christmas Day usually.
Well, the day before Christmas Eve, we'll take off because we'll do Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Then our vacation week, if you want to call it one, is in March whenever we have our Bible conference at church. We don't study, this is just us and the way we live. We're not studying going to the beaches or, don't get us wrong, but going to the mountains we'd love to see those places, but our main focus is, can we be with our church family and Lord guide me? Now, don't get me wrong. We can do a job and say it feels a 10-day job and we finish it in 7. Are we going to take those other 3 days? Absolutely. You know what I mean? We're going to take every day that we can.
Sure.
And that's what we take advantage of. We'll go to the river, or, we'll take a ride over to the backwoods of Mississippi and just ride the dirt roads or something for a little while. Or
go metal detecting, play in the beads, or you got to have a break here and there. But
definitely,
we're not And we're not the ones that are like planning a $10,000 vacation 3 times a year kind of deal. But we're just
Yeah.
not those people.
We're not knocking that at all. I mean, that's
No,
wonderful.
absolutely
Sure.
not.
But it's just our world. We once again just go back, try to keep it simple and enjoy what the Lord gives us right here.
That's right. Yeah. I heard an old fellow one time. I asked him, I think he was in his 90s, and I asked that gentleman, I said, "What's the secret to life?" And I'll never forget this. He said back to me, he said, "Keep your highs and lows close together." I think what he meant by saying is, don't get to a point where you get yourself so stressed out where you're on top of the clouds, and then the next day something happens where you're down in the dumps. He's saying, keep an even keel. Whatever that means to each individual, it might be different, right? For you all, it might be how you guys manage. Maybe you take off just a few days here and there, and just something simple, just as much as maybe being outside, being on the river, playing in the woods, whatever it might be, whatever that it is to you all. For somebody else, it might be something different, right? So
Yeah.
that's what he said. Keep your highs and lows close together. I guess basically just stay out of trouble. Don't go seeking something that you may not like what you find.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
continue
yeah.
to do what you love, no matter what it is, whether it's the beekeeping end or, if you got one of those jobs to where this was your goal to become an airplane pilot or, a firefighter or a policeman, whatever the case may be, that's what your drive through life was. Then whenever you actually get that job, as the old saying goes, it's not a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you enjoy to do. You get the benefit of a paycheck, don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but you enjoy doing whatever your career is or craftsmanship, whatever it may be.
Yeah. I got to say, the one thing that I've never enjoyed doing when I was working construction was mudding and taping. I used to work for a construction company here in St. Louis for a number of years, and I've got a lot of family members that have been in construction, still are construction in different aspects. So I was a carpenter and I was a framer, so we would frame houses every single day. And I've done a lot of stuff in between too, but you get a lot of your buddies that might do some some work. They need somebody decides they want to build a garage or they want to build their own house or whatever, and everybody goes over and pitches in. I've always loved every aspect of it, but the one thing that I've always despised was mudding and taping. I don't mind hanging sheetrock, but I never, ever want to mud and tape. When somebody asks me about doing it, I'm like, find somebody else. A few years ago, built a large addition on the back side of my mother-in-law's and father-in-law's house. And again, since I own my own landscaping company, I was able to take a little time, some of my own contacts I have in the construction field, and help to get them some better deals on products or certain aspects of labor and such. And I was happy to do it. And I really enjoyed doing this project, taking it on and GC and the entire thing myself. And, it was kind of kind of this drive where you want this sense of accomplishment on something. But when it came down to certain aspects, I'm like, I'll find somebody, but I'm like, I'm not doing this part of the job. And mudding and taping for me was that one thing right there. I just, it wasn't going to happen. And
That's it. Throw it out.
Yeah.
Yes,
For
sir.
us, it's the sanding.
yeah.
Sanding sheetrock. I
Uh-huh.
passionately dislike other things, but I hate the mess of
Yeah.
sanding sheetrock.
Ain't that true? We had a job. I'll tell y'all this. Y'all might get a kick out of this. My older brother was in a bind, and we was working for these
Oh my
folks. They was well off, had a 3-story home. The only time I've been in a residence that had an elevator in it.
In the house.
Yes.
Wow.
These people had an
That'd be a
elevator.
big house.
Oh, it was massive.
We got lost in that thing the first few times. Like for real,
Yeah.
I'd get turned around. in
We
that
didn't
thing.
belong there.
No. We were definitely the hired help around that neighborhood, that's for sure. But I told my brother, I said, come on. I said, I got a little bit extra in the job. Come on, I'll pay you. You can sand some sheetrock for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this lady had some antique furniture that come from her people, and some very nice, what do you call it, or something.
Yeah, I mean, this was like a formal sitting room.
Yes.
Okay, antique cloth furniture that had never been sneezed on before. Deal.
And Hannah and I, we was working on a different level of the house, and we had come down to get my brother, and just so
Mhm.
happened he come walking out that formal room, and
In
he looked
a
like,
cloud.
yes, he looked like Casper the Friendly Ghost, and I was like,
But
oh
y'all,
no.
you ever seen Charlie Brown? You know, Pigpen, the one
Yeah.
with the
Oh, yeah.
cloud of dirt that follows him. Okay, his
That was
brother
him.
had a cloud of white following him through this house, and when I heard this woman scream, "Oh my gosh, my furniture!"
Yes.
and take off running,
Oh
I
boy.
about died in my tracks.
Oh, we walked in there. He didn't cover nothing. He just went in there and went to sanding with a palm sander.
Gosh.
Oh
And
yeah.
Bubba, it was everywhere. And the antique chair was black in color already with like some little floral designs in it. So it was white as it could be. And I just had a moment within myself to where I'm fixing to wring your neck.
Yeah.
You know. And
Oh, it was bad.
thank goodness we got down there and we was able to get everything cleaned up, but we had to wipe down and vacuum every square inch and
It
put
took
dust
me like
collectors and
3 hours to clean this room.
needless to say, he didn't come back that next morning.
Oh God.
We were done
Well,
with that.
I can imagine if you had a little bit extra in that job before he started, after you was done, you didn't have any extra left in that job anymore, did you?
No,
No.
we watched that fly out the window.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thankfully
Oh
the
my
lady,
God.
she was forgiven and all that. And we worked for them from another year or so here and there until they had to move out of state. But
Mhm.
yeah, I was thinking to myself on the way home, they ain't never gonna call us back for nothing.
Oh yeah,
You know?
we just knew we were toast.
Sure.
But no, they called us back, and we did a lot of work renovating that house for them to sell until Tim locked us in the elevator
Yes,
of
sir.
the house.
That's
So
funny.
thanks for gets me into y'all.
Well, I know y'all probably watched which one?
NCIS
Yeah.
with Gibbs, Special Agent Gibbs.
Uh-huh.
Y'all know how he stopped that elevator, kablam, hit that stop button and talked to his officers in that elevator.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
I seen the stop button one day on there and I was like thinking to myself, I'm fixing to pull me a Gibbs up in this bad boy. So
Oh yeah.
I hit the button and it stopped. Well, when I tried to pull the button back out to go again, she ain't want to go.
Oh boy.
Like 15 minutes in a birdcage elevator. And I finally, my eyes landed on the sticker where this thing ain't been inspected since the year this house was built. And I'm going,
Oh,
we're
boy.
never in this elevator. We're never getting out of here because nobody knows where we are. We're like in between the basement and the first floor. And both of our cell phones are on the 3rd floor of this house.
Oh man.
And the stupid elevator won't come back on.
Hey, we got out of it. So I kept telling her, don't worry. I'm panicking myself, thinking, oh, good grief, what have I done? You know what I mean? But I had to keep calm with her,
Mm-hmm.
hitting a few more
He's
buttons.
way better at that than me. He's way better at staying calm in those kind of situations than me.
We got
Sounds
out
like
of
he was like a kid in a candy store. He just couldn't keep his hand off the button that says "Do not touch." He had to push it to see what the reaction was, right?
That's why everybody calls him Buttons, because he cannot stand it. If he sees a red button, he's gonna fist slam it. He's not just
Okay,
gonna
I got
push
you.
it.
what's this do?
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
it was horrible.
She constantly has to me going through the store, quit touching stuff. Just leave it alone. But I'm just one of them where I walk by a box and I'll thump it or something, just bam, bam, on to the next one.
It's good that he's cute all the time.
Welcome to my world, people. Welcome to my world.
I was wondering how you got the nickname Buttons. Now I understand. I get it
Yep.
now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Very good.
Well, our YouTube family dubbed me on that after our first couple lives. I didn't know how to push the buttons on this StreamYard and stuff right here.
Mm-hmm.
And
He'll just start pushing buttons.
I was pushing them, then before long, I ended the stream, and we'd have to restart it. And we went through that a couple times until finally she told me to stop. Don't do that no
Stop
more.
pushing buttons, please.
The buttons I like to push are her buttons. I like to
Oh
push
my
those.
God.
I test her.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
How I
all
don't
those
strangle him once a day, I have no idea.
do what, Melissa?
Said how he doesn't get strangled at least once a day, I have no idea.
Patience from God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've tried to give him back to his mother multiple times, and she's like, "No, like God gave me you to take him away from me."
Well, gentlemen, y'all know how it is. You have that moment in your head, you're thinking, she's going to get aggravated with this, but I'm going for it.
That's right.
You just push. That's it. You just go for it, then eventually she'll calm on down.
That's right. Full steam ahead.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah. No refunds. I've been told that multiple times.
Hannah telling him to stop pushing.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that, DC. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But we try to have fun with one another. Keep
Well,
things
you
going. I like to cut up with her, and I'll tell her a tale or two.
do. It keeps life interesting.
Oh,
Yep.
definitely does.
There's never a dull moment in the Blake house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. He'll start aggravating me like at night when so when we go to bed, we'll go in the bedroom and usually watch beekeeping YouTube videos. And he's the type of person that like can immediately fall asleep, right? I'll be up reading or watching something till like 2 a.m. But when I go in there, I just want to be left alone and like just it's my like don't irritate me time, right? And he'll come in there at first and he's like doing, all this nonsense. I'm like, if you want to aggravate somebody, you've got 2 teenage boys right in the bedrooms right next door. Go irritate the bejesus out of them. Leave me alone. I'm like, I came in here because I was done for the night.
Yeah,
I'll go to the house. I'll aggravate everybody.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of them. I had you first, so
Yeah,
you're a lot more fun.
that's right.
Like,
Yeah,
but we had kids for a reason, so you could aggravate them.
yeah. She is more fun to aggravate because I get a better reaction out of her. I have to stay occupied and stay busy. I can't just sit around. I can't sit still. I have to be doing something. Have to be focused on something. Have to be getting something done. And if I'm awake and I don't have something to do, I find it. And it's usually pestering her.
Yeah.
My favorite pastime.
Ricky, you don't do that to Miss Ruth, do you?
Oh, I'm glad she's not on here right now because I've probably been smacked for the thing I do to her.
Lee said, I'll let Tim run the live when y'all come here. I told him, as long as you're aware of and ready to accept the repercussions and consequences, it's all yours.
Cannot guarantee nothing, Lee. So you better put your files on one of them cards we was talking about a while ago.
Yeah, you better have backups for backups for backup. You're gonna have buttons loose in that studio.
But I'll be happy to push them. We'll see what they do.
Oh my gosh. He'd be like a 5-year-old in an arcade if you turn him loose in that office, Lee.
Well, guys, we're going to cut it right here, and I want to say thank you, Tim and Hannah, for coming on. You guys are awesome. Love your show. Ever since I've seen it the first time, it's been awesome. You know, really wanted to bring the ladies on here. We didn't get to see Lee's wife. I did ask, but that must have been a no. And I did ask Spanky's mom to come on, but she must not have been feeling good because she said she would come on tonight. And, she must not have been feeling good, so let's just pray for her. And she feels a little bit better. But do want to say thank you to everybody in the chat stuck with us this late tonight. It's been a great group, good conversation, and most of all, what I get slapped for is saying, God bless y'all. So until next time.
Thank you.
too.